This is the light source that's directly over my apartment, and this is exactly where LAPD was flying over my apartment, which is the outward demonstration of demon possession by the state that's group stalking. It is currently, while you're looking at this light source, right over my head. This is engineered light that's over the property. This is my shadow that appears on the ground, right, as I aim my arm out. That's speaking to what is impossible light activity. Let me do this again, hold on. So you can see the light source is right over me. That's where my shadow as I pull my hand out, right? And the light source is right here over my head. And I'm on the third floor right in front of my apartment. And again, the time is relevant. That's probative with regard to demon possession, and it's probative with regard to group stalking by the state of California. It is indeed 1:26 p.m. So I want to remind you about what the entity is documented as engaging in on an ongoing basis. Just like you saw with Universal Waste Systems, along this hillside, engineered light is all covering the people of the state. This is after 6 o'clock in the evening. The light source is right here over me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. These are demons that are flying back and forth, pacing in a helicopter. They're going back and forth and back and forth. That's a communication of a threat by the state of California that's engaged in state terrorism. It's a communication of a threat while it's occurring in the specific environment. They are demonstrating the fact that they are demon possessed as well, which becomes legally relevant upon engaging in this criminal system. And it is done while the entity is engaged in federal stalking, meaning the entity, the demon possessed one, communicates a threat with knowledge that you're documenting it. It's not a coincidence that they are in alignment with me. That's called group stalking. It's not a coincidence that they're engaging in flying back and forth. That's demonic pacing. It's not a coincidence that it's happening in the unnatural environment where the sun would never be present at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's based on a couple of things. First of all, I want you to listen to that audible activity, because that's the outward demonstration of demon possession as well. Amplification. This is what the entity is doing while I'm inside of my office, and it's impossible for me to hear the helicopter at that distance. The entity is engaging in what is group stalking, walking in the engineered light, putting their dumpster out on the sidewalk, creating light activity, federal stalking in concert with the state, in relevant position with the people. All right, I want to be clear, that's ground to federal prison right there. This whole property, this whole community is going to be prosecuted as those engaging, they're terrorists, and they're engaged in state surveillance with the entity that's flying over them while the light source is over me, and they are walking in no sunlight. That's a demon walking in engineered light with knowledge. That's why the light source is here. That's why the entity is stalking my helicopter, and that is also reasonably construed to what is nothing other than the evidence of intent to engage in group stalking with the state. All right, this is called loitering in the path. This is the same thing that the entity was doing via Universal Waste Systems, stalking in the path using that vehicle with the flashing lights. That's a demon that knows what I'm saying, knows what I'm saying as I say it, and is also engaged in what is ongoing activity creation. That's called light activity and relevant positioning, and they're monitoring with the state that's pacing above in a helicopter. This communication of a threat by all of the people of the state living in relevant position. That's why she's going to federal prison. She and her son, that's Zhong and Kim Zhong. Group stalking, all right? Flying in relevant position, and I'm going to remind you about what you saw this morning, because they're not in sunlight now, and it's not sunlight that's still over this hillside after 6 o'clock in the evening, and they are engaged in the same demonic exposition, stalking in plain sight when you saw them flying in a circle for 47 minutes. So let's look at that together. Couple of things. The light source that's over me at this same exact property, which is Alvarado Gardens. You remember what you saw that demon driving the Universal Waste vehicle doing? Crossing path while engineer light moved all across that apartment building. That apartment building is on this same property. It's on the same property, 1800 North Alvarado Street, which is Alvarado Gardens, where the sun would never be present at 9 o'clock in the morning, which you can see through the window of that vehicle while that demon operating commercial vehicle is crossing path. And so let's look at, because the light source is over me at the same exact property at 1:29 in the afternoon, when you're looking at the people of the state group stalking. You're looking at the people of the state group stalking in concert with the state. All right, so let's just be clear. First of all, this building right here to the right where I'm placing my finger, you see the dot? This building to the right is where I'm inside of right now, my apartment. Well, I'm standing outside of the front door. The light source is directly over this building right now. That's how you're able to see it directly over my head. Okay, that's it right there. Not the sun. And let's look at the evidence so that you're reminded about the ongoing demon possession of an entity that's stalking on an ongoing basis while these psychopaths are monitoring the exposure and the criminal system that is being accumulated to their own demise. That is why Dominic Choi is permanently out of a job having anything to do with law enforcement. And by the way, that's a terrorist and a sex offender that's going to have trouble getting a job anywhere, just like every other group stalker, which is going to be published on a list maintained by the Department of Justice, letting any and every American citizen know where they intend to move or where they want to work. That's how Dominic Choi is going to be treated, because that's what he and the Los Angeles Police Department represent when they are stalking in a helicopter in an unnatural environment. This is 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:03 a.m., and I am inside of the same building where this demon is going to drive by. You're looking at the engineered light that's never the product of sunlight. That's not sunlight. That's a demon crossing path with engineered light. Engineered light covers all of the property, by the way. The entity is also doing so while you can see the light source right over my head in this video as I'm at the same property at 9 o'clock in the morning. Oh, that's the light source right there. And I'm at the same building, building 1806, where this light source is over me right now, over the same building, same property. So let's count the hours, 10, 11, 12, 1. That's 4 hours from now, same exact location, same property, and literally the same demons that are group stalking Universal Waste, as I documented this morning. The people of the state are maintaining presence, and that's a light activity while a demon is walking in engineered light under the light source. Another demon in a vehicle is crossing path, creating light activity under the light source with real-time knowledge. That's also audible activity while using a loud vehicle to do so. That's a demon, okay? Everything that the demon-possessed population do is amplified in volume. That's harassment by an entity, a demon-possessed entity that's group stalking on behalf of the state. The state that you saw stalking in the path in perfect alignment, amplified volume of that helicopter, which is the ongoing identification. Literally, it is the stamp of what is a demon that's group stalking you, and that represents the state, and that's telling on everybody that's going to be prosecuted as terrorists, group stalkers, and they live in relevant position to you. There's no sun that's going to be over this same apartment building, over this same property, that would ever be present as I'm documenting the so-called sunrise at this same exact hillside. And it's not just over the property, it's directly over me at the property. And that's how you identify a demon and a group stalker. That's not taking out the garbage, putting the dumpster on the street. That's not driving down the street. That's called group stalking. It's activity creation, and it's concerted activity. I want to make sure that you recognize that. That's what you saw on same time of year, April 29, 2024, and you're recognizing everything that you hear. That's called amplification of a demon. That's exhibiting what is also hostility, because that's what these psychopaths do while the demon-possessed are exposed and they're prosecuted through what is irreducible evidence. The demon-possessed population, which poses a threat to your life wherever you're at in this country, wherever you're at in the world, because this is relevant to those that are outside of the jurisdiction of the U.S. This is revealing what Satan is doing amongst the people. All right, and it's a threat to those that are in their presence, and they don't want you to know about their condition, and they get more violent, more sexually violent, more terrorizing while that is exposed. This is a light source that's not possibly the sun, and that's not possibly the sun because it's still over me at the same exact property. This is 9 o'clock in the morning, and it also follows that this is not sunlight that would coexist with your just driving a vehicle. See the engineer light move across the apartment building. That's called crossing path, moves into the depths of that shadowy staircase. While these two demons, Ty Lee and the demon operating that vehicle, they're moving in stride. Those are demons that are pacing together. That's an act of the demonic that you're witnessing. And they're doing it while the light source is directly over me in the parking lot. I am remaining at the same exact property. You're looking at what is the evidence of ongoing state surveillance while the entity flew directly over my apartment, which is exactly what I documented while I was inside of my apartment. LAPD flew directly over at 12:57 p.m. And that's exactly what I noted, flying over my apartment as I remain inside of my apartment on my lunch, tracking my every move. This is what demons do. This is what they're doing while they live in relevant position. Group stalking as a lifestyle. That level of facilitation, by the way, it is the grounds of federal prison. Just want to point that out. This is ongoing devotion, not only to Satan, but to a government that's engaged in terrorism. That's why she's going to federal prison, her and her son, and then they're going back to Korea. The entity, and I'm pointing out this third-party group stalker right here, 1806, number 5. The entity is maintaining a light source over me, and you're also going to recall, not only is this the specific environment, as you're looking at duration of time, 9 o'clock in the morning to what is 1:34 in the afternoon, we can easily juxtapose that with what is 1:17, 1:45 on April 29, 2022. The light source is remaining over my head in its zenith while I'm in Fontana, California, and my front door, where I'm standing right now, have nothing in common. The sun would never be present in this same position. It would never be anywhere visible while I'm over facing the east, which is the hillside where I've documented the so-called sunrise as well. There's a whole body of evidence speaking to the specific environment. It is the direct the direct indicator to what is state surveillance. And what else is a part of that? The entity's heavily documented stalking in helicopters. And also why they engage in the pattern of retaliation. There's no such thing as retaliation when both your condition and your criminal activity is fully exposed. They are providing evidence against a whole entity and they're all gonna be prosecuted because they're all group stalking together. So they all go down together, okay? There's no natural environment here. That's called stalking with light, while the light source is over me, stalking in the path. You also know that they're stalking because the demonic feature of what is amplification of a helicopter. Okay, the entity is doing so while I'm remaining at this same property, which you will recall, as I am here, and that same corrupt law enforcement agency that are the demon-possessed, group stalking in a helicopter for 47 minutes. I can never show it enough, so that's why I'm going to show it to you again at this same hillside where the sun would never be. The sun would never be in any position. You're looking at this light source that's over my head now. It's 1 o'clock. It's 1:35 in the afternoon. You're seeing over 5 hours from now, this is the engineered light that's covering the hillside, and they're all engaged in state terrorism. And this is a terrorist that knows that it's being documented, and the entity engages in what is futile efforts to engage in what is retaliation, group stalking, crossing path and engineered light, showing impunity and showing obsession. That's terrorism that's being documented while the entity continues and obsessively group stalks you, flying on all the streets. Everybody on Lobdell, on Avalon, on Effie, on engaging in what is on Brandon, on Alvarado, all the streets and all the highways. As far reaching as this engineered light, that's how far reaching that federal prosecution is going to go. And this is just in Los Angeles. I've been documenting the people of the state for years, and every single last one of them documented are going to be prosecuted as the terrorists that they are. And the Department of Justice is going to identify them for the good of the public, for the good of the American citizens in this country, because they are obsessed psychopaths and they make up police departments, hospitals, fire departments, sheriff's departments, judges, and lawyers in courthouses and in medical facilities where they are engaging in what is state terrorism and then seeking to conceal the fact that they're demons and that they're targeting American citizens in this country. That is an entire shakedown of what is an entirely demonic system, which is wreaking terrorism in the United States. I want to make sure that you're looking at what is 1 in the afternoon, so let's go ahead and not forget this, because the demons are pacing around, showing their mental illness is made manifest while they engage in more demonic activity, which is achieving monitoring. It's criminal. Their crossing path that is flying in circles. I want to be clear, none of this is sunlight. The sun is over me right now at 1:34. The sun is over me at the same property at 9 o'clock in the morning. There is no iteration of the natural environment that would ever result in what is sunlight over the same exact hillside. And that's how you know what they all are. Criminal co-conspirators engaging what is state terrorism. And they're all convicted, literally, with the direct evidence, because you know what's going to happen in federal court? All you're going to do is play the evidence of the state stalking you. That's all you're going to do, because all the people of the state are group stalking with that state. And that ongoing conspiracy is already established. You are showing your mental illness and the threat that you are to the public while you continue to engage in it. That's all that the entity is demonstrating. And that is supporting the advocacy for the multiple policies that I speak to, which is serving to protect the public, serve the public good. It is currently, again, 1:38 p.m. The entity is engaged in ongoing workplace terrorism. This is that which speaker companies, every third-party group stalking demon that is feigning some employment for a legitimate company, they're engaged in state terrorism, which is how a public entity keeps you under surveillance through every area of your life. When you go to work, when you go to church, when you go to ballet class, when you go to the movies, when you go to the mall, when you go to bed at night, when you wake up and you go to the restroom, when you're disrobed, when you're engaged in any sexual contact with another, that is a third party, by the way. You don't consent to having sex with the government and it being public information. The entity is an exceedingly violent sex offender, all right, in every area of your life. And they are serving Satan in doing so. No ordinary criminal because it's the government. It's also no ordinary criminal because it's literally demonic activity. All right, this is the light source that remains over me, and you already know that. I've captured this position of this light source well after 2 p.m., okay? And the entity maintains this light source at this property until sunset. All of that is the ongoing evidence of what is never the natural environment. And those demons literally engaged in what is flying in circles again and then amplifying it, prosecuting, aiding in the prosecution of all the people of the state, because the LAPD, they don't have an iota of legitimacy, and they are clearly established as terrorists and criminals that will be relieved from the positions, having nothing to do with law enforcement, and many going to federal prison because they want to engage in terrorism and stalking in helicopters. And the federal government's not going to have a problem finding out who's doing what when they're doing it, okay? It is currently, again, 1:40 p.m., and this is P.O.C.